Okay, order. I will call Harpreet Uppal to move the motion, and I will then call the Minister to respond. There will not be an opportunity for the member in charge to wind up, as is the convention for 30-minute debates. There will be no other speeches, but members can intervene briefly. Order, order. I call on Harpreet Uppal to move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honour to serve under your chairship. It is a pleasure to open this important debate on access to universal and targeted youth provision, and it's fantastic to see so many members here today. I should have gone for the 19-minute debate after all. I am grateful for the opportunity to highlight the vital role youth services play in supporting young people across the country and delivering on the government's mission to reduce barriers to opportunity. I know many colleagues share a deep commitment to ensuring that every young person in our constituencies has the support and opportunities they need to thrive. Members from across this House recognise that youth services are not a luxury. They are an essential part of our communities. Trained youth workers create trusted relationships, offering safe spaces where young people can explore their interests.
Got a good crowd for it. One of the things in my constituency of Strangford, I'm sure it's the same in honourable ladies, is the church-based organisations. Churches remain the largest non-governmental institution. They give the voluntary membership they give across in the Northern Ireland. The uniformed organisations, they provide the youth clubs, the drama classes, the choirs and so much more. So does the honourable lady agree that there's an opportunity for government and for the Minister's Department to work alongside church groups, all church groups that is by the way, to provide the help for the youth that we all wish to see?
Can I thank the Honourable Member for his intervention? He's absolutely right. Faith organisations and voluntary organisations play a huge part in the youth services that we deliver. Thank you. So that young people can explore their interests, develop a sense of identity and, importantly, feel supported. It's also about giving young people the tools to lead happy, healthy and productive lives. I want to recognise the steps the government has taken in this area. Initiatives such as the National Youth Strategy for England and the Youth Futures Hubs aim to bring together targeted support for young people and reflect a growing understanding of the importance of youth services. However, we must also be important about the challenges we face.
Thank you, Dr. Alan Khan. It's a pleasure to serve on your chairship. And may I just say how wonderful this debate is, and I very much appreciate her work in securing the debate. Could I also commend the work both of the voluntary sector and of local authorities and church groups and other faith communities, but in particular to provide much needed targeted support around very difficult issues like mental health, much appreciated in many communities across the country.
Honourable Member, apologies. The Honourable Member is absolutely correct, and I will be coming on to mental health in my speech. Thank you. Since 2010, 14 years of Conservative governments have resulted in a £1.2 billion real terms reduction in local authority spending on youth services in England. I will.
The Honourable Member for giving way, and I thank her for bringing forward this really important debate. She's making a powerful introduction. The Street Foyer YMCA in Glastonbury and Somerset, in my constituency, provide excellent support for a lot of young people, quite often coming from challenging backgrounds and circumstances. But the local authority faces severe financial difficulties. Somerset Council, for example, can only spend £13.47 per head for young people in Somerset. So does the Honourable Member agree with me that it's crucial that we address the broken local government funding model if we are to improve youth service provision?
Yeah, well done.
The Honourable Member for her point, and I'm sure the Minister has heard what she has said. So I just wanted to go back to where I was, and as I've said, there's been a £1.2 billion real terms reduction in local authority spending on youth services in England, with Kirklees Council, covering my constituency of Huddersfield, seeing a 70% decrease in funding. This leaves just £47.76 per young person on youth services in our community. I will.
Given the way this is a really important debate, the point was made about the amount spent per young person. In Stoke-on-Trent, where I'm a Member of Parliament, it's £10.76 per young person. In inner London, it's £110. So the actual spend per person is 10 times the amount that's spent locally. So I just wonder if my honourable friend would agree with me that we need to look at the regional inequalities of how these services are funded, and hopefully the Minister will also hear that point as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm sure the Minister has heard your point. The Children's Society's Good Child Report shows that 15-year-olds in the UK had the lowest life satisfaction across 27 European countries. This was based on PISA data from 2022. Despite the financial outlook, there are many incredible organisations working within my constituency in Huddersfield to support our young people, and I want to name a few of them. If you could just take, yeah, thank you. Positive Steps, Conscious Youth Hub, Central Stars Youth Club, Team Kickstart, Yorkshire Community Development, Empower, Box Power and Temple Wellbeing. I just wanted to name a few of the organisations in my constituency, and I will give way.
Thank my honourable friend for giving way, and she's making a very powerful speech where everyone wants to intervene, and she's being very generous with her time. As she mentioned a few local important organisations, I wanted to do the same for my constituency of Hampstead and Highgate. The redevelopment of Highgate Newtown Community Centre is an example of how an ambitious community space serves as a welcoming hub where children and families look forward to visiting. And I just wanted to use the opportunity to thank the work of Andrew Sennett-Littrow and his team in making that happen. And just to ask my honourable friend, does she agree with me that housing developers should not just retain community centres, but they also need to enhance it in order to provide provision for young people and families in our local constituencies?
I do agree with the honourable member who's been a great champion in this area as well. Right, these organisations deliver outstanding community-led services to our young people, offering them, apologies, I'll just get to the right paper, offering them experiences, opportunities and environments which allow them to thrive. However, despite the best efforts of their incredible staff and volunteers, the financial constraints they face have resulted in many having to reduce the services they offer. The evidence is clear. When youth services are cut, young people suffer. I will.
Thank you so much for giving way to the honourable member there. Will the honourable member agree that the Minister should answer two questions today? First, about the real money and funding and jobs that will flow from the National Youth Strategy, but also about integration, so a youth chapter in the housing strategy, as Centrepoint have asked for, and about bringing its co-production values into what's quite worrying about some aspects of the Get Britain Working strategy.
I'm sure the Minister has heard what the honourable member has said, but I must say I'm very proud that this government is developing a national youth strategy, which hasn't happened before. The research from the IFS found that the closure of youth clubs led to a 4% drop in GCSE performance at age 16, with even greater effects for pupils from disadvantaged backgrounds. Worse still, the loss of youth services has been linked to a 14% increase in youth crime within 6 years of youth service closures. I'm going to take both, and then I need to make a little bit of progress, and then I'll take other members. So we'll start with the member here, and then we'll take the member over there, if that's okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And can I say how pleased I am to see this debate secured. Last week I spoke about the importance of the holistic approach into preventing crime, especially the importance of providing young people with safe spaces. 14 years of brutal cuts. Council that I used to lead had £1 billion budget. Now it's 800,000, 200,000, 200 million cut from that budget. And despite these punishing cuts, councils are still building, like the first Lido to be built in London in decades, a swimming pool, a leisure centre. These are all infrastructures that we must be building. And the old analogy, if you build it, they will come, is something that we should put at the forefront of everything we do. Does the honourable member agree?
I do agree, Chair. I'll take the other intervention at this point.
Thank you. Thank you so much for her patience. So, the All-Party Parliamentary Group's 2020 investigation in knife crime and violence reduction found a strong negative association between the closure of youth centres and increase in knife crime in the same area. Now, each year, youth services save the public purse £500 million by preventing crime. In Surrey, spending has fallen by 49% since 2010. So does the honourable member agree with me that investment in youth services is absolutely invaluable in preventing both knife crime and antisocial behaviour?
The honourable member is quite right, and I'm coming on to that point now. We are unfortunately seeing the consequences of these reductions in youth service provisions across the country, as organised criminal gangs lure children and young people into county lines networks and organised criminality. Too many communities have seen children criminally exploited, and sadly we have seen the devastating consequences of knife crime. In Huddersfield, Kyrie McLean, 15, and Harley Brown, 17, sadly lost their lives to knife crime in recent years. And only last week, 15-year-old Harvey Wilgus was fatally stabbed in Sheffield. Too many parents dealing with consequences that no parent should have to face, communities broken, and too many children and young people left with mental scars.
I thank you, Chair, for chairing, seeing a fellow con there. Can I thank you as well for giving way, and you're making an excellent progress on such an important subject. Now, across the country, children are being let down by the absence of support that is tailored to their multi-layered and complex needs. So does the member agree that in order to protect the mental well-being of young people, it is necessary to invest in good quality, trauma-informed youth provisions for all? And the Minister, I hope, should be looking at the regional inequalities which we all see.
I do agree with the member. I'm just going to make a bit of progress and I'll take more interventions if that's okay. We know more than 1 in 5 children now have a diagnosable mental health condition, and that many wait over a year to access a mental health specialist, with nearly 40,000 children waiting more than 2 years in 23-24. Research shows that it's 100 times cheaper to treat a young person in the community than as an inpatient. The government has taken steps to improve mental health support in schools, but youth services also play a critical role in addressing these challenges early on. Whilst I recognise all the work this government have already done to address these issues, the challenges facing the sector require more than short-term funding. The Youth Investment Fund, for example, is helping to develop youth facilities, but it largely covers capital investment, leaving critical gaps in operational funding for staffing and programme delivery. Similarly, I will.
Thank you very much, and thank you, I thank the member for her excellent speech. On that point, I totally agree that we have to have investment in capital as well as revenue funding. I recently brought together young people and youth organisations in Norwich to discuss the challenges that they face, and a particular gap was in the period between 3 to 7 p.m. So does she agree that when we're developing these strategies, we have to make sure the voices of those on the ground, and particularly young people, are at the front of it?
Thank you, Chair. The Honourable Member makes an excellent point, and we must make sure that young people play a part in the programmes that are delivered for them. While 22 youth future hubs are being piloted through the Shared Outcomes Fund, they are only funding for a 1-year period. To recover from years of Conservative neglect, youth services need sustainable long-term funding. However, I know... I certainly will.
Thank the member for giving way, and it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. Would the member agree with me that to ensure adequate provision for the youth services, we need to consider creating a statutory youth service with ring-fenced funding? That will ensure that the young people across the country will be able to access high-quality services irrespective of the financial position of the local council. And often, when cuts are made to youth services, it will be something that they will not be able to do. Does the member agree with me?
Thank you, Chair. I do agree with the Honourable Member that we need more investment in youth services, and I'm sure the Minister has heard the point about statutory provision. I know from recent meetings with incredible organisations working in this space that this pilot is hugely welcomed, and they would appreciate confirmation from the Minister regarding timelines on the delivery of the youth hubs. In addition, the Duke of Edinburgh award team are calling for a universal enrichment guarantee which offers 80 hours of enrichment activity per year, giving all young people regular access to positive activities. I hope the Minister will look into this new policy from the Duke of Edinburgh team. Madam Chair, the benefits of investing in youth services are clear. As the Labour Party's own manifesto said, nothing says more about the state of a nation than the well-being of its children. I think there's two members who want to intervene. So, yeah, I'll take the member from Birmingham, Eddington first. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. And can I thank the member for Huddersfield for securing this debate. In Birmingham, Erdington, we have a high proportion of young people with poor access to youth services and shockingly high youth knife crime statistics. Does the honourable member agree that the youth funding crisis must be urgently resolved? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, and I absolutely agree with the member, and I hope we can work together on this in the future. I'll take the other intervention.
I'm very grateful, Dr Alan Khan, to my friend from Huddersfield, and it's obviously a pleasure to follow my near neighbour from Erdington. Politics is about choices, and it's not a surprise that there's no single Conservative Party backbencher here to listen to this debate nor to contribute to it. And with that in mind, I wonder whether my honourable friend from Huddersfield will join me in calling on Conservative-run Staffordshire County Council to pull their finger out and to make sure that constituents and young constituents in Newcastle and Lyme and Kidsgrove and up and down the county get the youth services that they need and deserve.
I support the honourable member's cause, and it is disappointing that we don't have any members from the main opposition. Absolutely. Thank you. Research shows that for every £1 invested in youth work, the return to the taxpayer is £3.20 and £6.40. Additionally, for every £1 invested in child and adolescent mental health services, the return on investment is an estimated £2.85 in benefits to the individual, an additional £1.40 in savings to the government. I certainly will.
Thank you, Remember for giving way, and if anyone doesn't get to intervene today, please sign my backbench business debate on youth services, because I think we need more time to discuss this. But as she's rightly pointing out, that this is not just a moral case, it's also a financial case when it comes to supporting youth services. Does she agree that the 73% decline in youth services points to an issue around giving that statutory protection to youth services and ensuring we've got benchmarks for the sort of provision that is provided? So does she agree with me that we do need statutory protections when it comes to youth services in the future?
Thank you, Chair. I do agree we need more protections, and I'm sure the Minister has heard the point on statutory protections as well. And please do sign the honourable member's backbench application. These services reduce the need for more costly interventions, as honourable members have said, later in life, from social care to the criminal justice system. And it means we give young people a chance, an opportunity to thrive. A thriving youth sector also depends on a strongly skilled workforce, and as such, we need to ensure that the youth sector can attract, train and retain skilled professionals. The National Youth Agency's 2024 Workforce Survey found that over 4,500 youth workers have left the profession in the past decade, and only 6 undergraduate youth work programmes remain, down from 37 in 2013. At the same time, the demand for youth services is constantly increasing. 82% of youth sector organisations report growing demand for mental health support.
Give way,
I certainly will.
Oh, thank you so much. Dr Ems, which is a youth organisation in Caerfyrddin, provides a safe space for diverse young people in Caerfyrddin, in my constituency. And the YFC movement, the Young Farmers Movement, provides life skills for our young people in rural communities, such as public speaking, the arts, chairing of meetings, life skills that people use in public office. Children's services, of course, is devolved in Wales, but all of these are supported by our local authority. And will my honourable friend agree that adequate local authority funding is essential in order that we safeguard these services for all our young people?
I do agree, Chair. Moving on. If we want the Youth Future Hubs and other youth initiatives to succeed, we also need to invest in training and development for youth workers. I urge the government to consider a national training programme for youth workers to ensure safe, effective and impactful youth provision. Good youth services change lives. Over the past few months, I have met with and heard stories from national organisations and seen firsthand the incredible work on the ground in Huddersfield, all of which highlight the transformative effect providing young people with safe spaces, trusted relationships and pathways to brighter futures. In summing up, I know from first-hand experience that when young people are given the right support, they go on to achieve their potential, contribute to their communities and lead happier, healthier lives. And unfortunately, too many times, I have seen talent squandered. We must ensure that every young person, no matter where they live, have access to high-quality youth services. The evidence is clear. Investment in youth work is an investment in the future of our young people and our country. And if we want to meet our growth ambitions, that also means investing in our young people. I want to thank the honourable members for intervening, and I look forward to hearing from the Minister and how we can work together to restore and strengthen youth provision across the country. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The question is that this House has considered access to universal and targeted youth provision. Stephanie Peacock.
Thank you. Well, it is a pleasure to serve under your chairship, Dr Alan Carr, and it's a pleasure to see you for the first time in the chair. And I would like to begin by congratulating my honourable friend, the member for Huddersfield, on securing this important debate. And it is brilliant to see so many members from across the House here, which obviously reflects how important this issue is to members. So slightly unusually, I am going to respond to some of the points made in interventions, as it's only a 30-minute debate and not a 90-minute debate. But if I can't respond to all of them, or I can't take all your interventions, I will, of course, write to honourable members. So I think there were some really important points raised around regional inequalities from both the members from Stoke and from Manchester. Of course, I've seen that as a constituency MP in South Yorkshire, in my own area of Barnsley. We're looking at a pilot of the local youth transformation project, which could look at areas where local authority funding has fallen away, and we will, of course, take regional inequalities into account. Rightly, the issue of mental health, and it's something I will touch upon in my speech, was raised. And evidence shows, of course, youth services have a positive impact. And I thought the honourable member spoke very powerfully about that. The honourable member, who I don't believe is still in his place, but from Strangford, spoke about faith groups. We're working with them, of course, in programmes like the Uniformed Youth. The honourable member from Brighton, I believe, had some specific questions. I will be touching on them in my speech, but I will also write to her if I don't answer them fully. And we do actually, I'd like to say from the outset, want a more coordinated cross-government approach, which again is something I'd like to touch on. There were some specific questions about the Duke of Edinburgh scheme, and I will write to the honourable member there. And of course, she rightly and very powerfully referenced the devastating impact of knife crime, and I'd like to add mine and the government's condolences to the family of Harvey, who was tragically killed in Sheffield last week. So now I'd like to move on to address some of the substantial points, and as I say, I'll write to honourable members if I can't take all of their interventions. But I'd like to start my response in the short time I have by outlining that this government recognises the transformative role that youth services play in young people's lives. We know that being part of a supportive community and having access to positive activities can improve a young person's well-being, health and personal development. We know that youth workers and volunteers are vital to these services, building trusting relationships, creating safe spaces and, where needed, providing life-changing, targeted support. We have strong evidence of the impact of trusted adults in youth clubs and sports clubs, in early support hubs and job centres, and even in A&E. But we also know that the workforce situation is fragile. Local authority spending on youth has reduced 73% since 2010. This equates to over £1 billion less being spent on young people each year. Sustainable jobs are becoming a rarity and coordination of support has been lost. Now more than ever, we need a thriving youth sector staffed by trained professionals and supported by incredible volunteers. Young people today are facing complex challenges, from navigating social media and new technologies to experiencing firsthand the devastating effects of antisocial behaviour, crime and violence. It is undeniable that these challenges, and therefore the way we tackle them, are constantly changing. Talent and potential exist in every postcode in this country, but opportunity does not. Our youth participation survey shows that fewer than half of all respondents agree that there weren't enough clubs and activities in their area. As the Member of Parliament for Barnsley South, I know the huge contribution and value organisations like the Barnsley Youth Choir make, with hundreds of young people taking part, giving young people across Barnsley amazing experiences, opportunity and skills. And since become Minister for Youth, I have been really pleased to visit a number of youth organisations, from the Really Neat project in Rotherham to Sport at the Heart in Brent. While DCMS... I will.
Recently it was announced one of the youth centres that has been saved in my constituency, which serves the most deprived wards in the country, is the Concord Centre. I welcome the Minister to come and visit that at the earliest opportunity.
I'm grateful for that very kind invitation, and I will do my very best to visit in the near future. Because while DCMS is the lead department for out-of-school youth provision, I know as a former teacher and as a constituency MP who visits schools regularly that support for young people is a challenge that can and should be met cross-government. And that is why in November last year, my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, announced the co-production of an ambitious new national youth strategy. This strategy will put young people back in charge of their own destiny, providing them with meaningful choices and chances. We have now begun our engagement with young people and the sectors that work with them as part of the co-production process. Back in November, we kick-started this process when I had the opportunity to meet a group of I Will ambassadors, and they told me how important it is for local areas to empower their young people. They also raised concerns about mental health, youth loneliness, education and work opportunities. I've met with other stakeholders in the sector, such as Girl Guiding, the Youth Endowment Fund and the National Association of Boys and Girls Clubs, to listen to those who work closely with young people, those who provide them with access to trusted adults, safe spaces and new opportunities. I'm really sorry, in the interest of time, I will make some progress. These stakeholders experience youth work firsthand, and it is vital we hear from them about the challenges young people and the sector are facing as we build the National Youth Strategy. A vital part of co-producing the strategy will take place through our Youth Advisory Board and the Expert Advisory Group. Both will be involved throughout the strategy development process. They will provide expertise, challenge and a diverse range of perspectives. I joined the first meeting of the Expert Advisory Group and look forward to dropping into a meeting of the Youth Advisory Group soon. Its members have already provided a wealth of valuable information which will of course inform our thinking. In addition to the insights from these groups, we're engaging a number of other ways to ensure all young people have the opportunity to have their say, and in particular those whose voices are too often excluded. We will work closely with expert organisations who will lead a range of engagement activities with young people. This includes a wide-reaching national survey asking about young people's needs, challenges and priorities, which we will launch very soon. The survey is currently being finalised in conjunction with our expert groups, and I don't want to preempt what it will include, but I would expect it to cover a wide range of issues, such as what young people's current needs are, if they have access to safe spaces, what they would like to have access to in their local areas outside of school, and much more. The expert organisations will also be conducting in-depth focus groups and innovative events with young people to develop solutions. We will provide more information to MPs. I'm really sorry, in the interest of time, I'm going to make some progress. We will provide more information to MPs regarding the National Youth Strategy development within the next month. This will include an engagement toolkit so MPs can run their own workshops and discussions with young people, or share the toolkit with organisations in their constituencies who will work with young people. We will also share information regarding the National Survey once live, and it is vitally important we reach young people from all parts of the country, and we'll be asking MPs to help with that. So, as I have set out, the National Youth Strategy is being led by my department. However, increasing access to universal and targeted youth provision is a shared mission across government, and we therefore want the National Youth Strategy to better coordinate the work of government, helping to ensure that all young people from every corner of the country have the access to services they need. My honourable friends specifically raised the Young Futures Hubs, which will be placed in local communities to improve the way that young people can access opportunities. My department is working closely with the Department of Education, the Home Office and others to take this forward. Minister Darby and I will tomorrow co-chair the first meeting of the Young Futures Ministerial Group, which sits under the Safer Streets Mission Board. This will be the first step towards delivering a new cross-government approach to supporting young people. So today's debate has focused on young people's access to universal and targeted provision. This government is committed to delivering on our national missions, and young people and the opportunities they deserve access access to form a vital part of it. We have the opportunity, through the National Youth Strategy, to work collectively and across government to set a new direction for young people, listening to what they need and responding to those needs, both through universal and targeted youth provision. This debate has been incredibly popular. I'm so sorry I've not been able to take all the interventions, but it's been a great opportunity to showcase the role of youth provision and the difference it makes to young people, and I look forward to seeing what we do together, and I congratulate the Honourable Member for Huddersfield once again for securing this important debate.
The question is that this House has considered access to universal and targeted youth provision. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. Order, order. Okay, so...